Hey, we got some interesting information to share. How about how much your retirement's going to cost you by where you live?
Brent, I am so excited to talk about this because it's one of the questions that a lot of people have. Okay, what do I actually need to retire? What do I actually need to experience financial independence? And this won't come as a surprise, but where you live will actually likely have a huge impact on what the answer to that question is.
And it's not, one of the big things when we do content shows, one of the hardest things for us is we have to use some number for people who are not retiring for 20, 30 years.
That's right.
And sometimes we use a percentage of income to assume expenses. But that gets to the point that what's really the most important, it's not really what you make, it's what you actually are going to spend in retirement.
So Visual Capitalist came out with this really interesting chart that shows the entire United States, and it shows the annual retirement costs by state. And this is, again, is across food, shelter, transportation, healthcare, utilities, and then like a little bit extra to kind of show you, okay, well, what would be the annual retirement spend, the annual living retirement need by states? And unsurprisingly, there are some that are relatively low and reasonable, and there are some that are pretty high and a hard level to get to.
Well, let's compare and contrast here. If you want to know on the low side, where would you have to live? It's West Virginia with $58,000 in average annual retirement spending. And if you want to know the highest, we've got Hawaii coming in at $129,000, and the national average is $71,640. So then we said, hey, let's, in Money Guy fashion, let's take this in a different way, because I love what Visual Capitalists put together here with the Go Banking Rates data. But we were like, okay, what would you actually have to have in assets to replace this level of expenses? And we came up with, using the 4% withdrawal rule, a whole spread here for you.
Yeah, if we think about just the average, the national average we said was $71,640. That means that on average, you would need almost a $1.8 million portfolio across the country. But if you want to get specific, we said, okay, if we take that same thought process and apply the 4% withdrawal rule to all of these states, what are the lowest 10 states in terms of the size of portfolio you would need, and what are the highest 10? And it was kind of remarkable that if you look at the bottom 10s, this is West Virginia, Oklahoma, Alabama, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, the portfolio value falls somewhere between $1.4 to $1.6 million would be what would be necessary with a 4% draw rate to reach that average standard of living in that state.
Now, here's the thing, because a lot of people are going to see this and be like, oh no, I mean, I just don't know that I'm on track to have $1.5 million, much less $3 million. And that's why I think it's important. And this is why when we've done content in the past, we've tried to take a percentage of income or other things, because there's always typically an offset.
Yep.
And let's face it, when we think about offsets, a lot of you, especially if you're retirement age, you might be old enough that you will qualify for a pension, because the pensions they were much more prominent in the past. And most people, especially those approaching retirement, qualify for Social Security. That is going to have a direct offset to your expenses or cash flow needs. And that can have a dramatic need. Think about, for somebody in Hawaii, $3 million. That's a lot of net worth that you would have to have, a big lift to save to build that type of net worth or basket of holdings. But if you had a pension that was going to provide, or Social Security, and those two in combination were $40,000 a year, all of a sudden, instead of being around $3 million in need, you might need $2 million
That's right.
in need. You just trimmed a full $1 million off of that. So don't let this panic you. You just need to, it shows how important it is to take inventory, because once again, personal finance is very personal.
That's right.
What do you have coming in, and what are you going to be able to use to build that awesome retirement?
And of course, the actual answer for how much you need to retire is dependent solely on you. Just because someone else might be able to live at a stated standard of living does not mean that's a standard of living that you want to or need to live in retirement. So as you get closer to retirement, we want you budgeting, we want you tracking, we want you having a really good understanding of what your retirement expenses will be. But Brian, we have a huge audience out there, and they say, oh, okay, I'm in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and I want to know what my number is. How should I be trending? How should I be thinking about this? And you already said this. this, one of the most difficult things that we do is try to project what living expenses will be 20, 30, 40 years into the future. And so when someone in their 20s or in their 30s asks us, hey guys, I'm trying to figure out my number. What should my number be? We say your number should be 25%.
Well, yeah, you can quickly see this is the personal finance is that if you go look at and I love the intersection point, how much should you save in retirement? If you have not checked this out, go to moneyguy.com/resources. This is going to let you now look at, hey, okay, I'm in my 20s because I'm starting this much earlier than the average American who doesn't start saving and investing for the future is usually in their early 30s, early to mid 30s at this point because it changes from year to year. If you're in your 20s, you're getting a huge head start and you're giving your army of dollars that much more compounding interest opportunity. Your savings rate might be able to be well below 20%. So that's why go check this out. Individualize your journey. But the big thing is don't let studies like this on how much things are going to cost in retirement. Focus on what you can control, and your savings rate is a big factor in that.